Talking now about, flex time, more flexibility with your jobs. I know Tamsin and Jody and Robbie all had different working situations. If you can talk about the flexibility that you had and maybe how it worked for you.
I think Jody and I, we were both at Gap at the same time. Our kids will marry one day. Very close. I think we'd both been at the company for quite some time, and you get accustomed to a job, it becomes relatively easy to manage, and I liked it perfectly well, but I was honestly not as inspired as I had been when I first arrived. And when Product Red came along as a concept that I helped sell into Gap, and then I had the opportunity to go native and join, I did something that seems kind of insane, which is leave a job that allowed me to, sleep in with my kids and pick them up early and visit them in the middle of the day, to start working in another city and fly back and forth and have all sorts of additional challenges and pressures that made the first few months very, very difficult. But it was, for me, one of those opportunities I couldn't say no to. And again, it wasn't, I think, kind of a rational cognitive process of what's flexible, what's not, what am I going to be able to manage. It's, you sometimes just do things because it feels like the right thing, and because you'll kick yourself if you don't do them. And I think one of the hardest things for mothers, for women in general, is to not feel guilty kind of all the time. And I find I sometimes, I'm guilty I don't spend enough time with my kids, or that I'm not putting enough into my job. And I think, in a sense, flexibility is being able to relax and give yourself a break and just try to feel happier. So, my thoughts.
I would agree, and it's funny, we've had a similar path. I lucked back into a flex thing thanks to Dawn down there, who threw my name out and said, hire her, she's like 5 full-timers. And I got into a great place, and I learned a ton. And for me, having kids so close together and them being young, up till the age of about 4 or 5, my ambition did feel different to me during that time, and it was perfect. It was really a nice segue for me. But I have to say, the second my boss's job opened up, I wanted it. My ambition came back like that, and I went for it. And so for me, it's been kind of I'm viewing my life in a bunch of fluid 5-year increments. The first increment was getting married, getting pregnant, and staying home for a couple of years with my kids. The second increment was figuring out what do I want, who am I, and I have figured the most part of that out. And the third is let's see how far I can go with this. Let's let my brain grow and go nuts until it doesn't feel right anymore. And so it's less about following this perfect little track I thought I had set out for myself, and just saying, go with it in short term, and go with it as long as you can.
That's a great attitude. Robbie, I know you're an independent consultant. If you could give our audience members maybe 2 or 3 benefits to why it works for you, what you've got going.
Yeah, okay, well, first of all, consulting rocks. It's a really great career option that I didn't even know existed 5 years ago. I had one friend who was doing it. And basically the idea is that you come into a situation where a company is in dire need of your skills and your experience, and you just dive on creating value. And people are willing to pay for that. Second thing, which is kind of related, is that I'm a praise junkie. I really enjoy getting good feedback, and I found that in a job, sometimes it's just day in, day out, you do your work, and that's kind of what people expect. But when you do consulting, you're constantly selling the project and then getting feedback at the end of the project. So there's a lot of feedback, and I always know that the project that I'm doing is something that somebody really needs, or else they wouldn't have come up with a budget for it. So in terms of feeling like my time away from my kids and my husband matters, I have a lot of confidence that I'm adding value wherever I go. And then the last thing I wanted to talk about, and this kind of echoes what both Tamsin and Jody were saying about flexibility, is that I have my 5-year plan and my 10-year plan, but I also have my 10-minute plan. Because in the course of a single day, and I don't know if other people have the same experience, I can feel in the same day like, I should work harder, I should ramp up my business, I should hire a lot of people, and I should quit my job and homeschool my children and never leave the house again. And this can be within a couple of hours. So yeah. So just giving yourself a little bit of flexibility and maybe using the word in your mind of flexibility rather than balance, to just be flexible and go with what happens rather than feeling like you're constantly on a seesaw trying to balance all of these changing demands and desires.
Thank you, Robbie. Amy, as a book author and doing some working from home, how do you hit the stopwatch and say, okay, enough for today, and not deal with the interruptions of the children and just keep working and working and working?
Well, showering's a good tip. Showering and brushing your teeth. Right during getting pregnant with my first baby, I started my own PR consultancy, and it kind of transitioned into writing the book with Trisha. I literally was so paranoid about what my clients thought I did at home, because I had a home office, that I would, like, it was my birthday one time, my husband walked in at 3 p.m. to surprise me. He's like, hey, honey, and I literally was in my pajamas. I hadn't brushed my teeth. He's like, okay, well, we've got a problem. What's going on? Because I was so paranoid about, making sure I was there for every client phone call and every media phone call, that for me, that was just learning to say no and set boundaries and set parameters. I had this one really aggressive client, and I finally started telling her, you know what, these are my boundaries. And and a couple years later came back to me and said, you taught me how to say no. You taught me by watching you set your boundaries for your family and your business. And it was a really long road for me. That was rough. Like, working out of the home was the biggest, I just thought it would be great. I thought it would be so easy, and it was really hard. So.